Thank you so much, Bill, for having us. I'm R.C. Williams.
And I'm Juliana Armand.
As Bill mentioned, we are co-founders of Watchmen Action. Watchmen Action is a nonprofit ministry.
And our cause is to be able to equip the church to engage the culture by helping them build advocacy plans around core issues that matters most to them and their community.
So, Juliana, it's probably a good idea to give the good folks some background on how we ended up where we are today with Watchmen Action.
So, when RC and I met 11 years ago, we're both market research, competitive intelligence type of people, right? We built a technology that helped us do market research so that we can better, help our clients. Well, as we were doing the research, we started to see things that we were like, oh my gosh, this is really important. We need to start talking to our brothers and sisters about what's happening in our society. So we started writing to publications. Ripped from the Headlines was our first publication where we talk about what the headlines are saying, what they're not saying, what's true, what's not true, what you need to know. And about 6 months later, we realized that, we needed to write about hot topics like, one world religion, one world government, the new world order, the things that were actually happening that the churches didn't know how to talk about it, but we needed to talk about it because people were calling it conspiracy theory. And we were sitting there going, no, we need to have, as a church, we need to talk about what's going on because we're looking at society going, okay, what's happening? That led us to traveling with a couple of pastor groups when we realized that there were wonderful people that wanted to do things, and there were people that had great tools, right? Whether it was a book that they wrote, a website that they have, some way that they can help the people that want to get involved to be able to get involved. So we realized there was a disconnect. So we actually wrote a workbook. I'm going to go through the workbook with you as a train the trainers, meaning, we're not going to actually do all the work today, but I want you to think because we want you guys to be thinking about training other people and actually taking this curriculum out into your community. You guys actually doing the curriculum, being able to go to your church and say, we need to start advocating for things that are important to us. I always tell people that when Jesus was walking the planet, the government didn't take care of the people took care of the people, right? So that's why we wrote Watchmen Action, the workbook, because I kept saying that we were, empowered to be able to do the things that we're capable of doing. We don't need to have the government take care of things. When everything went sideways in North Carolina, it was the people that cleared the roads. Right? It wasn't the government officials that did that. It was just the neighbors that got together and did what needed to be done. Right? And we're at that time, we're in that season as the church where we need to be prepared. Father told us to take territory. I always say that, nothing stays the same. It's either going forward or it's going backwards. And right now it's going backwards, right? We've got little boys being chemically castrated in the hospitals. It's time for the church to do something. So RC and I were like, okay, we took our business and we said, we need to start the ministry. We need to go into the churches and the organizations and say, let's organize. We're more than capable of doing it. We don't need to wait for the government to do the things that we need to do in our community. I had somebody come to me and she said to me, these three orphanage homes, homeless shelters came to me and said, how can we service in 1900 homeless children in my one county, one? And from that moment I said, no, not on my watch. And I know everyone in this room feels the same exact way. So we're going to go into what this all means, and I'll let you take it in from here.
Yeah, so Juliana makes a great point, guys. And I know that you came here tonight to learn. Mm-hmm. We're of the belief, and this comes from experience of talking to groups like yours all over the country, that you also came tonight to lead. And so walking you through what we do with Watchmen Action, we wanted to do it from the perspective with you guys as a group, as people who are going to walk out that door tonight, or some of you, because this happens every time we do this, some of you are going to get to work while you're still there tonight. Yeah. You're going to be out telling your story to people about why all the great work that you guys are doing with the Pennsylvania Integrity Network matters so much. And so our goal is to equip you with an understanding of how to do that, but then to get you ready to say, you know what, I want to work with you guys and your group on taking this knowledge and doing what you've been called to do by the Father. And the way that we do these, normally, it's less about being a curriculum instructor, quote unquote. This is more like facilitating a conversation. Now tonight, you guys will have an opportunity, obviously, to ask questions, but we're going to do this from the perspective of framing up each part of our training with something that we've actually done or that someone we've worked with has actually done. If you guys are familiar with the Reclaim campaign, Raj Doraisamy is a good friend of ours. The Reclaim campaign in the state of Florida has now gotten to the point where they're working to take back school board seats. They're working at the state capitol level. That model is based on the Watchmen Action training.
Right.
So you see it in action all the time. And this is incredibly exciting for us. So Juliana, I think what would be great at this point is if we gave them a walkthrough of the structure.
So first I want to talk about what we're going to accomplish today, and then let's talk about the presentation real quick. Okay, so what I would like to accomplish today is for all of you to have a full understanding of what it means to be able to start advocating for something, okay? We're going to go through the workbook. It's a lot of information. We have the express pack for you, not the full version, right? At the full version, we can never get through it in 90 minutes. There's absolutely no way. Okay, but we're going through the express pack. We're going to send you the full version because it's going to have a lot of information, a lot of meat in there for you to understand the stuff that we're talking about, because everything that's in here is business level stuff. Okay, it's all from our business background. We brought it into, how do we build an advocacy plan? It's not just a willy-nilly. We came up with a plan, right? It's an actual workbook based on business. Okay, second thing is, as we're going through the presentation, if you have any questions that you want to ask, just raise your hand, let us know. Just note the fact that it's kind of hard for us to hear you guys, so, let's try to be clear. I don't know if we need to come up to the speaker or something like that, but let us know if you have a question or something, and we'll answer them for you.
Yeah. So should we open up the workbook now?
Sure.
You want to do that? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, guys, so we're going to share the screen here. Stand by. Our box is going to get small, but the training that you came to learn and lead from is going to get larger. So I think everyone can see that okay. Give me just a second here. We're going to work and do this the best that we can. I think I'm going to do a switch. One sec. There we are again. Give us just a second. So let's do it this way.
Awesome.
We're switching screens, so it's easier for us to see you and what we're doing, and for you to clearly see what we're doing. So we'll do this way. There we go. You guys should be able to see that just fine now. So, Watchmen Action Training. Empowered to Act is the battle plan for you to get things done. So I think what I'd like to do here is we'll skip forward to our table of contents.
So I'm going to go with the 3 parts, not each section, just the sections themselves, not each components of the section, just so you understand a brief outline of what we're about to do. So Name the Moment is all about what are you advocating for, and how do you deduce it down to very specifically what you're advocating for, and then what's your story, right? Because to be able to advocate for something, you need to get other people to come on board and to advocate with you. So part 1 is all about what are you advocating for, and then how do you build your story. Part 2 is plan the strategy. We're going to have, who needs to sit around the table, right? What tools you need to have. If you were going to go advocate for something up in Tallahassee or whatever your capital is, and you want to be able to go, you've got who's going to stay home and who's going to actually go and how is that going to look. So we're going to help you build all of that. We're going to have you do a SWOT analysis. We want to know what your strengths and your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats are, because that's important. How do you navigate getting to your goal for your advocacy plan? And who needs to help you get there? And then part 3 is move the needle, right? What are all the different tools that you need? What are the different platforms you need? Who needs to read what? How do you make sure that everybody is in unison with each other, doing the things that they need to do and moving the needle forward? When you're doing this, you're going to have your workbook in front of you, you're going to have your laptop open, you're going to have lined papers and plain pieces of paper, because you're going to be writing down names, you're going to be making phone calls, you're going to be looking up things, you're going to be writing things, you're going to be doing analysis, because when you're done, you're going to know more or less exactly what you need to be doing and what needs to happen next and how your team needs to move forward. So, let's continue.
Great.
Okay. So, we always talk about that we are the watchmen. Ezekiel 33:6 basically says, right? That you're the watchman. If you see the sword coming and something happens to your brothers and sisters, you're responsible. They'll die for their iniquity, but their blood is your responsibility. So I always tell people when I start my conversations that I'm a watchman, you're a watchman. The minute I tell you, you're now obligated to go tell your brothers and sisters. So please use that. When you're having a conversation with people, we need to be saying, hey, if you're in the church, okay, if you believe in, the Heavenly Father, so I don't care if you're Jewish or you're Christian or you're Catholic, I don't care. If you believe in the Torah, then, you're our brothers and sisters, and you need to know what's going on, and it's your responsibility to go tell people. We also cite the Ephesians 6:12 from Geneva. And the reason why we do this is because King James wanted to suppress us. He didn't want us to know things, so he changed things in the Bible. So the Geneva was actually the Bible that our forefathers came over from England with. So in Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. And this is the part that he changed. And against the worldly governors, the princes of the darkness of this world, here. They had us separate. They were like, the church needs to stay out of government. Who made government? And if we were to see what Father told us in Ephesians, right, we know that they're not us. So if we, the church, are not leading society and the culture, then who is? It's obviously not Father, right, and his people. So we talk about the importance of standing up. Those that are sitting on the couch, if you're sitting on the couch, you're the reason why this is happening. You're just as much as fault as the people who are actually doing it, because by default, you're allowing it to happen, okay? We are the government. We are the first line of government. We, the people. We, the church. When the church was the center of society, the communities look beautiful. Families were beautiful. Then it's time for us to get back to that understanding that we need to be governing ourselves and we need to be standing up, and we have the ability to do that, and Watchmen Action is one of the ways that we can do that.
Yeah, it's interesting how King James had a vested interest in making sure that discussion about governors was limited, because he wanted to be able to control what happened. It's the little things that you find out, but that's actually important when it comes to your story. So we had told you about some of the challenges that go on. This page talks about why we created Watchmen Action, which we shared at the beginning. So as we go through tonight, here is the question for you to keep in mind overall. Everything that you're going to pick up this evening and that you're going to take with you to share to someone else comes down to this lesson essential question. How can we create the kind of communities, cultures, and governments in America that reflect a free and moral society? Feels like it's easier said than done, but I'll tell you this much, what Juliana mentioned about communities and groups like these working together, you would be amazed, if you have not been amazed already, at what a small group of people can do in putting together larger groups that move the needle. You'll recall, 3% of the population fought in the War for Independence, and they won. 3%, that means 97% stayed on the sidelines. You can move mountains when you're focused, armed, and ready. So let's jump into section 1.
So Name of the Moment is all about creating your story and figuring out exactly what you're going to advocate for and building the story around what you're advocating for.
Yeah, so let's take a look at it. As we had a lesson essential question, for each chapter we walk you through, there's going to be a chapter essential question. Here's this one. How can I leverage my personal experiences to move the needle on an issue that I care about? There is nothing more powerful than your own story or testimony to someone else about why what you're sharing matters. Not what you're sharing, but why what you are sharing matters. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, you know what? It seems like progressives do a really good job sharing their emotions and getting people to do things. Our response to you would be, you are absolutely correct, which is why they tend to win these battles in hand-to-hand combat, so to speak, with us, because they do a better job of providing really a lowest common denominator, the easiest way possible for someone else to carry their message in mass. And what we have long said is that the cannon will fire the other way if you turn it, and that's what this chapter is about.
So I want to know, do you guys as a group, do you have something in particular that you want to be able to advocate for? Or are you guys thinking individually that you have things that you want to advocate for? What's the consensus for the room?
Voting integrity.
Voter integrity. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
awesome.
through my head.
Okay.
Voter integrity. Voter integrity.
They heard you.
Voter integrity.
Voter integrity it is. Okay.
All right, awesome.
So, guys, that goes back to the story. We know that this battle is kind of long in the tooth, right? They're great patriots, just like you guys, that are out there fighting that battle. So what do you do when you get down the road to ensure that it stays not only top of mind, but you can get people to move in a meaningful way on that issue? If you've ever dealt with public servants, I'm hesitant to use the word politicians. I don't particularly care for it. If you're dealing with public servants at the local level, the state level, even the federal level, they recognize mass. So if you are calling, that's great. If you are calling and emailing, that's even better. If you are calling, emailing, and on social media, 10 times better. If you show up, they have a matrix. If 5 of you show up to your legislator's office, they consider that to be, what, 15, 20,000 votes represented? Think about that power. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. So when you get that opportunity, what do? How do you engage others? By telling your story. What we did is we took a look at Marshall Gans, who was a professor at Harvard. Don't hold it against him, it still works for him. He came up with the story of self. So this is a story frame that allows you to take your personal experience, a la voter integrity. Not so much that it's an issue, but honestly, how did it affect you? And if you can see the bottom of the screen, the model for this is your key to victory. Challenge, choice, and outcome. If you've got something to write with, you'll probably want to write those down. We'll make sure you get this after, but for now you want to write that down because that needs to be your calling card when you talk about things.
Awesome. So start from the center where it says my story. All points of the story is really important. What's your setting? The sounds, the colors, the emotion, the atmosphere. You know, it's so funny. I'm not a person who emotes, and I'm not a person who's big into story time. A lot of people are. I'm just not. I'm like really an introvert. But I didn't realize that when you make your story so tangible, people are really they lean in because they want to hear those little details, right? And your story needs to have, you know, a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's on the bottom. And you look on the top, right? The first thing you need to decide is, what is your obstacle? What is your defining event? Like, what happens in your story, right? It's binary. Was it good or was it bad, right? What were the outcomes of the situation? What did you do, right? And then what's the moral of the story? What actually happened, right? So we would love for you guys to write some, you know, examples if you want to think about that, but like, you know, what part of your story wants you to say, you know what, voter integrity is really important to me. You know, why is that something that you are passionate about? And then, you know, if you're really passionate about that, it's like, what specifically do you want to do for voter integrity, right? There's so many different things that you can do. But you need to be specific about what you're going to do. Tackle, laser focus on what it is that you want to do. So when you're talking about your story and you're wrapping your story around, this is so important to me because this is what happened to me, and I'm hyper focused on looking at this thing over here, and I need help getting that done. People appreciate that because you're not scattered, you're not all over the place. You're actually saying, I've got a plan. And I'm laser focused on what that plan is. You can't just be broad, you have to be very specific about what it is that you want to talk about.
Amen. Did you want to talk about the story, or should I share something with them?
Sure.
Okay. So you guys are talking voter integrity. I have a very interesting story, and I'm going to ask in advance that you don't chuckle right away, because it does have a happy ending. In 1992, I was first eligible to vote. I turned 18. Okay? You guys remember the 1992 election and who won? But take a step back, if you would, please. At the beginning of that, a guy from Texas named Ross Perot had this 18-year-old kid enamored with his common sense. Makes sense, right? And Ross Perot was actually leading in the polls on a three-way race. I'm like, Ross Perot's a man. This guy's got it figured out. Crazy little Texan with big ears and a funny voice had it figured out. So everything's fine. I'm actually going to cast a vote for Ross Perot in the election because I believe he's got the answer. Now, this 18-year-old kid is also a somewhat talented musician who happens to play tenor saxophone. He also watches TV. And on a given night, he watches Arsenio Hall. And there's this guy running for president who plays the saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show. RC switches his vote.
Bill Clinton.
Biggest mistake of his life. From that point forward, once I figured out that I had been bamboozled and that the system was fixed, now I've been a registered Republican ever since then, but understanding that put something in me about how things can be manipulated. People are being manipulated every day. We saw the Clinton effect happen again in 2008 with Barack Obama. I wanted to know why. And then I started to figure out there was a voting train. You could buy votes, you could shift votes, you could get people to do things you want to do if you offered them enough money, vice, or power. And I said, how do I stop that? What's the core? Well, the core is you can manipulate people who really don't know any better into doing whatever you want. Thus, when you see ballot dumps at 3 a.m. in the morning, where are they coming from? They're coming from the places where people are most easily manipulated to do what you want them to do. Then you factor in cheating and everything else like that. But my personal story of being hoodwinked and lied to by Bill Clinton gave me a passion to make sure that people know the truth about how the system works.
That's powerful.
And I know each of you in the room have some type of story inside you like that. Something happened to you. Not just you were a poll worker, poll watcher, I appreciate that. There was something deeper that you saw, that you were a part of, that you were around, that sparked you to say, because the room was almost unanimous, in voter integrity.
Yep.
What was that moment? And then how can you crystallize that for people so they say, I got cheated too?
Well, that can also talk as a group. The
Yes.
reason why us as a group, that we're so passionate about this one thing right here, is that when people go voter integrity, they think of their group.
Exactly right.
Okay.
So you guys get an idea of what you can do if you personalize your story. So we'll keep rolling.
Real quick,
Okay.
time check. So it's 7 o'clock. Are we talking till 8 o'clock and then doing a Q&A from 8 to 8:30? Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay,
Yes.
good. I just want to make sure that we're doing that.
All right, guys, so this is the story portion. Let's go ahead and move to section 2 of chapter 1. This is the mountains of influence.
So even though you have a story, right, your influence may be in one of these areas, right? Do you have influence in the religious area, the family area, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, business, science and technology? Like, where is it that you have influence where you can start saying, here's my story, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to be able to influence this mountain over here to say, hey, for example, the religious mountain. We as the church need to be talking about voter integrity because, what they're voting for is against our efforts. For example, the Republican Party, as of August of 2024, is no longer pro-life. They are pro-choice. Okay? We, the Republicans, we, the church, right, need to say, excuse me, but that's not what we want to have happen. So if I'm saying, I want to know voter integrity, and I'm going to take the religious mountain, then what does your story, what does your story look like when you're having that conversation and you're in?
Yeah, are you an educator? What influence can you have in the education system? They've already stolen 100 years of education from us. If you have influence there, and you tell your story within that sphere, you can get other people moving, and that applies to all of them. Juliana, I mean, I think you guys, as leaders in particular, will appreciate this. What we're going to ask you to do with this, when we're in person with you, there's normally an exercise around this, but I want you guys to think about something. I want you to think about what moved you, and instead of just spraying it all over the place, so to speak, I also want you to think about where you have influence. And it doesn't need to be with tens of thousands or millions of people. It can be with 2 people.
That's right.
Whatever you are known for,
that's right.
That is your sphere of influence. Start there and work there because you're already trusted. Your reputation precedes you.
Right.
Own that mountain because however many people are in the room, you guys are going to pretty much cover all these bases in some way. If everyone does what they're supposed to do, this thing works.
Exactly.
Amen.
Do we have any questions about this section? No?
No.
Can they repeat the mountains?
Oh, can we repeat the mountains?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's religion.
Is it on your screen? Are you seeing your screen with the different mountains on it?
It's fairly small, so we can't
it's
see.
small. Oh, yes, sir. Okay, so it's religion. Can we make it bigger?
I could try, I just don't want to lose.
Okay, religion, it's okay. Family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, business, and I threw in a bonus, which is science and technology. Like our influence is a lot of tech.
Yeah.
We're talking about artificial intelligence and how the church needs to be involved in that.
Yeah, we actually have a symposium happening at the end of this month here in Florida where we're keynoting on AI in education. So you take on the influence where you are, and what would happen if we were together, we won't belabor this, but what ends up happening is we work with you in a format where you figure out which mountains work for you and what ideas you want to work on, and you're doing it on a giant sticky board.
So preferably, let's say, for example, I don't know how many of you are in the room, but let's say there's 10 of you in the room, and 3 of you want to do this, and 5 of you want to do that, and 2 of you want to do that over there. Then we would work with you, the individual groups, to be able to develop your advocacy plan, your story, and everything, and what you need to do. And this would help us to divide people up.
So part 3 of chapter 1 is important, right? So when you cut an issue, that allows you to narrow down what you want to hit so that you can be productive, right? So if we say voter integrity and medical freedom, great, I love it. What about it? What do you need, right? It's fine if you want to tackle that, but if you don't cut it down in bite-sized pieces,
Very specific, people are not going to be able to follow you. And I know you guys mentioned that the screen is small, so we will try to walk you through the bubbles that are on the screen, because this is a great example of what we're talking about. So education may be the issue you want to tackle. Education issues is in that big bubble in the middle. Great. What within education do you want to tackle? Is it school choice? That's the bubble on the bottom left there. Or on the upper left, is it curriculum? So within education, you feel like there's issues in what young people are being taught. Great. What level of education curriculum do you want to deal with? High school. Okay. So high school curriculums within education are a problem. You guys following? Okay.
All right.
So within those high school curriculums, what are the biggest issues? DEI. That's a challenge, right? So DEI in high school curriculums in education in my county or in my city or in my neighborhood are absolutely terrible. Gender ideology, English, there's all kinds of challenges here.
So pick one.
Pick one.
Pick one. Is it gender ideology? Is it DEI? And then if you pick DEI, go down to which county are you going to work in? Then you go down to which county, it's what school are you going to work in? Like, you have to be that specific when you're talking about, we're going to tackle this challenge right here, right? Because when you're giving this story, people need to be able to follow. And if you just say, we're going to tackle education issues, or we're just going to, tackle the curriculum, like, be specific. Especially if you're trying to raise money for what it is that you're trying to do. Like, donors are going, okay, tell me exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do that, because financially I can get behind that if you've got a fully thought out plan to get that thing accomplished. Our job is to make sure that you have a full advocacy plan to be able to get the goal accomplished and to be able to raise money and support to do that exact thing.
Yeah. Charlie Kirk did this last year leading into the presidential election. We were actually at an event where he broke down what it was going to take for Donald Trump to win. And what he came up with is that it was basically turning 20 votes in a certain amount of precincts in a certain amount of states. So take that, like voting integrity, totally got it. What's it going to take for us to win? Well, Charlie Kirk said, listen, I need to be able to turn 20 votes in 5 precincts across 5 states, and Donald Trump is the next president of the United States.
Only 20 extra votes per precinct, only.
Correct.
Like, I was stunned that it was only 20 extra votes per precinct. Yeah.
But he did a great job cutting the issue, right? Because now the directive is clear. If we were to do that in your guys' example and get that down to that level of nuance, imagine what you could do when you tell someone, hey, look, man, we only need 5 extra votes here in order to turn this thing around. Anybody could do that. I got 5 friends. I'll go tell them right now they need to do that. So cutting the issue is critical.
All right. Landing the plane on this section. Research 4, becoming an advocate for your issue. So your issue profile is in the center. All these boxes give you the, how do I need to think about this? What's the information that I need to do? What research do I need to do to be able to understand what I'm looking at, right? Okay, so how far back in history is the right amount to research? Like, how far back do you need to really understand voter integrity? You know, when did voter integrity become a real issue, right? So you're gonna be thinking about what's the propaganda, what's the cultural beliefs, and what are the conspiracy theories about this? Because you're gonna have to dig into all this. You're gonna have to become like a little Sherlock and do some research on all of it, and make sure that you have all the right points and the most important points. What are the key trigger points that lead to controversy and their dates, right? When did we start losing voter integrity? When did we start to realize that they were, you know, dumping ballots and everything? Be very concise about that. What patterns and statistics did you see about that? What notable figures having to do with voter integrity was part of the situation, right? What are the changes that you want to see happen? What are the lessons that you need to learn about? Okay, so we went through this voter integrity issue. You know, what do we learn from it, right?
And you know, I think that the last part there in the lower right, what's the change that you want to see happen? Now you say voter integrity, well, I want elections to be free and fair. Okay, so...
Do you guys as a group have a, this is what we want to see happen, or is there a statewide, you know, this is what we would like to see the state of Pennsylvania?
Right,
Like,
and how then do you ensure, is it that you also want to ensure that continues long after you're gone?
right.
Right? That's something you want to change, right? Because everyone in the room is of varying ages, and we can appreciate that. You are fighting for yourself and your family, but in reality, you're also fighting for people that you'll never meet, right? And they're going to look back in history and say, what did my grandfather, grandmother, mom, dad, what did they do in the battle to make sure I can cast this ballot today, and I know it's going to be counted fairly and accurately, and I can continue to live in the freest country in the world?
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, so let me just go over real quick. So part one that we just went through, name the moment. The first part is naming your moment in history, so building your story and what you're going to advocate for. What mountain of influence are you going to be influencing? Okay. Then how do you cut down your issue so you specifically know exactly where you're going to target and how you're going to target it? And then becoming the advocate for your own work and what you want to do. Okay. Part two is playing the strategy. I love playing the strategy because I'm a strategist at heart. And I love knowing who's sitting on the table. So, good.
Yeah. So, strategy number one, let's start at the start.
Yeah, SWOT analysis. For those of you who don't know what a SWOT analysis is, it's really important to do a SWOT analysis. It allows you to look at, because now that you've got your issue, right, and as a team, you know what you want to do, but you got to look at it and go, okay, what's the strength behind what I'm going to do with voter integrity? How is what I'm about to do, what are the weaknesses so that I know how to counterbalance that? What are the threats? If I speak too quickly about what I'm going to do, somebody learns about it, that's a threat because they can now come against what it is I'm trying to do. And then what are the opportunities? Right, so if you're talking about voter integrity, you know, who do you know? What do you know? What's happening around you there? You know what? This could be a real opportunity for us for voter integrity to be able to do this. And so when you sit down as a team and you really think this through, like I would take this page, I would put it on the wall, I would look at it, and I would think about it. I would have conversations with people, and then come back to it and add strengths, weaknesses, or whatever you're finding, so that you can really hone in and know exactly what you're looking at. Because the last thing you want to do is be blindsided.
Right.
Our value proposition as a company, as a data analysis company, is three parts as far as knowledge is concerned. And we say knowledge, knowing something has three parts. One, you know that you know, at least you hope that you know that you have the right answer. Two is, you don't know, but you know how to get the answer. You ask Google, or you ask a friend or whatever, and hopefully you'll get the right answer. But part three is the most important part, and that's you didn't know that you didn't know, but you had to know it, right? So you didn't know that you didn't know that you needed to know. The SWOT analysis will help you understand what you didn't know that you needed to know. Because when you're making your formula about what you need to do, you need to know all the components. You need to know how they interact with each other, You know, what parts are good and what parts are not good, so that you know exactly how to build your plan to be able to be successful.
And just one other thing before we jump off of this, it is really important that you are brutally honest about all of these sections. If you cut yourself short, the SWAT's going to fail you because you haven't accounted for the good things and the bad things. It's really, really important that you do that.
We literally have people that will call us to do any, different types of research. So if you need any research, we'll help you with all of that. Because you really need to know what it is that you're looking at, right? Because if you have a misinformation, or if you're not pulling on the right lever to get voter integrity to move, right, then you're fighting the wrong battle. So we need to make sure that when you're saying, okay, I'm going to do voter integrity, well, what does that really mean? What does that really look like? You know, where are the leverages? Where are the opportunities for us to be able to do that? You know, where are the weaknesses? You know, where is this really going to hurt us? Okay.
All right, Strep.
Frozen there.
Was there a question?
No, you froze.
You froze.
Oh.
Oh, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So how do you frame your story? And the key to that is the human action model. This comes from von Mises. So we work as beings in 3 parts. This is why you see things in sequences of 3. An author named Carmine Gallo wrote a book called The Storyteller's Secret, and in it he breaks down that we are built in series of 3. Your favorite TV show has 3 distinct parts. These things are important. This is the human action model. So we'll lay it out for you as simply as we can. So at first, there is a sense of unease. What's the issue that I want to tackle and explain to people? How do I make it relatable? What's being taken, right? Is the threat imminent? Oh my God, the ship's going to sink, we're all going to die. We should probably grab the life vest, jump in a lifeboat so we don't die, okay? So what does the world look like? What does it look like when it gets better? How can you take your words and really paint colors in someone's mind of what's going to happen when this problem is solved, right? What does the world look like? Because voter integrity is now a thing. It is locked in, we've got it, we've solved the problem. What does the world look like? How much does that solve? How much better are things when everything works the way that it's intended? And once you set that stage, then you walk people through your path on how you get there. The example with Charlie Kirk, he actually used this when he talked about the precincts. He said, look, here's what can happen. Donald Trump can easily become the next president of the United States. We've broken this down. If we don't get this right, game's over. We are stuck. Everybody that we fought to get out, it's all over. All of it's over, right? If we fix this, the freedom that we fought for now comes to fruition. All of these great things are going to happen because we win this election. How do we get there? I've discovered that we only need to turn 20 votes per precinct in these precincts in these states, and Donald Trump's the next president of the United States. That's all we have to do. This model, guys, works. And as you're probably sitting there tonight, you're thinking to yourself, that sounds really familiar. And it's because it happens to you every day.
Well, when we give a clear call to action,
Right.
which is what Charlie does. He gives a very clear call to action, which is, part of your story, because you're going to be calling people to action over and over and over again. Note the fact that this, in the long form, we're not going to go through it, but I have more information on the ham model, so you can read more about it. I also have an example so that you can see how this is all developed, right? Because I don't want you thinking, oh, I need to figure out how to do this on my own. No, we give you an example and whatnot, and that's in the bigger version of the workbook.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk public narrative, right?
Yep.
We talked about Marshall Gantz and the challenge, choice, and outcome right at the very beginning. So the public narrative consists of 3 parts that tell a compelling story about your issue. You'll notice that step 1 of the public narrative is your 3-part story of self.
From the first
chapter, right? What affected you? What were the emotions? How is this relatable to someone? How do you personalize that story? From there, you go from the story of self to the story of us. So here's what we share in common, which is why we're having this conversation, right? Here's what we need to do to get this done. If we don't get this done, here are the consequences for us if this doesn't work out, right? And then that gets you to the story of now. So we've covered the story of self, the story of us, then we talk about the story of now. Why is this so urgent? Why is voter integrity urgent in the state of Pennsylvania, in the county in which you reside? Because all politics are local at first, right? Then they flow up to the federal level. So why is it so urgent for you? Why is it so urgent for your neighborhood, your precinct? Why is this so urgent?
Because if we don't do it now while Trump's in office.
Yeah, right, we're out of time. And actually, we have less than a year, right? Because midterms come around. We got to get done whatever we're going to get done now.
Yeah.
Right? What specific actions can we take? Listen, we need people every week at the state capitol or at City Hall constantly talking about this in ways that people understand why it is an issue. And when we have a local election coming up, we need to key in on past issues and say we need to watch out for these things. And then when we do it, how's it going to make a difference?
Exactly.
Right? So there's your public narrative side of it. All right.
So we talk about building communities, right? The importance of, looking around and seeing other people and saying, okay, so we want to be able to take action. What does that mean? Who's around, right? Who do we need to bring in? Like, it's great that you've got the club. I heard that Bill told us that you were connected with another club and you guys are all connecting and working together. That's fantastic. How can you do that better? How can you influence? How can you increase your influence? I had somebody once say to me, how do we multiply by adding? My brain had a what? And it was like, how do we multiply by adding? Yes, exactly. How do you add one person or one idea to what you're doing that just exponentially, grows your mission to where you want to go, right? So how do you build a community of networks around you so that you can be able to do better, more, faster? Because if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go solid, go with a team of people.
Amen.
Right? It's really important for that.
Yeah, that puts the pin in that section. Sharing more there. Okay, so strategy 4, power mapping for influence. Now, if you guys see that, it looks like a little box that you saw before with the SWOT analysis. This is slightly different. So consider this an extension of that. How can you identify and influence key decision maker on the issue that matters? So you need to complete the power analysis grid. We'll lay this out for you quickly. At the very top, it says position on the issue. And then on the bottom it says die hard support or die hard against.
So they die hard supporting it or they die hard against it, which is why it's that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then along the left-hand side, that says degree of influence. At the very bottom is irrelevant, and at the very top is greatest influence. This matters so much for what you guys want to tackle, because if you do this honestly, just like the SWOT analysis, you will quickly assess and target the people and groups that are going to get you the furthest.
Okay.
It's not about how we feel about those groups. It's about what they can do for the mission that we're on. And this helps you to get all the cobwebs out, right? And like you've got fog, you're like, hey, I have a preference for this or I have a favorite for this. None of that matters. What matters is, are they with you and do they have influence on the issue that matters to you, and can they help you to move the needle, as Juliana says?
Well, there's always 2 degrees or 6 degrees of separation, but when you're in politics and doing the things that we're doing, it just seems it's so much smaller than that. So if you go to the next page, right? So if we're looking for decision makers, like how do you get to the decision maker, right? So we power map how you get to them. So you, like, trying to get to, but it's like, here's the influence. If I'm, trying to get to the decision maker, do I know a wife?
You're breaking up again.
That's the
Can you hear?
broadband.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, you're back again. Word.
Okay.
Okay, we're plugged in, we're hardwired in. I'm wondering if it's your computer. Okay. To continue, so if it's you, like how are you connected to the people around you? How do you get to the decision maker, the person that you're looking to have conversations with?
Yeah. So I think a great example of this, Juliana, people saw us on War Room.
Oh, there you go.
So there's actually a story of power mapping of how we ended up on Steve Bannon's War Room.
Can you hear us okay, Bill?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Okay.
You got us okay?
Okay.
So, amen. So we had been planning about going to Turning Point Student Action Summit, right? And we're like, all right, who do we know at Turning Point that can help us move the needle? So we shared with our friends that work within Turning Point what we wanted to accomplish at the event. They said, look, you need to get a booth on Media Row. Here's who can help you. Well, it turns out the young lady that helped us said, hey, you know what? I know exactly who you need to connect with. And by the way, I have placed your Media Row booth just a couple of steps from the Real America's Voice main stage.
Right.
Our friend who works for Turning Point got us to someone else who became our friend at Turning Point, who knew what we wanted to do and positioned us there. So now we're in the spot. Now Juliana's looking around and she's like, if I see Bannon, if we see Bannon, we got to jump on it, right? So she's prepared. We're mapped. We know who our target is. As soon as he walks over and he's having a conversation by the booth, Juliana's like, Bannon, let's go. Right? So we go over and he says, what's your story? So we lay it out for him. And before we can finish, right, because I've gone from this and that, he's like, who do you know? We're talking about some folks. We know a friend of his. And he says, before we're done telling him our story, he looks at his producer and he says, hey, I want these two on the show tomorrow. Got it.
Rose again.
I was out of the audience. The person that was supposed to interview us, before they could do that, Ben Burka, the guy who always wears the baseball cap and goes out and he does Law and Order on Real America's Voice, he talks to us and he says, no, I'm going to have you with me. We got the full 3 minutes, so we power mapped our way in to the decision makers that could get us on national television. That's a great example of power mapping.
Excellent.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so before we go on to the third part, let me just go over the second part real quick again. Plan the strategies. So we taught you how to do a SWOT analysis, how to frame your story, how do you leverage your communities and your networks, and then how are you power mapping for influence to get to the person that you want to get to. Part 3 of the workbook is all about how do you move the needle? What are the different tools that you need that can help you progress forward, right? What action steps do you need to have to make sure that you get to your goal?
So let's do it.
So this is where we have all different types of organizations, right? And there's only some of them. Like Circle helps you build out a community. Beck TV is a network. Coastal Conservative News is a news network. There's education, public school exit, micro school academy. We need to think about all the different, tools that you need to be able to move the voter integrity forward.
Yeah, so we've put together this tool bank when we train, and we say, okay, what do you want to accomplish? Well, great. Here are the tools that will work together for you to do what you need to do.
What are some of the tools that you guys are using right now? Like, are you working together on any platforms? Are you using any kind of organizing platform?
Website.
Yeah, website. Internet, TikTok, Instagram.
You have a website?
Yep.
Social media accounts.
Awesome.
Yeah, social media accounts. That's it.
Beautiful. Is any of you guys writing? Do you do any kind of articles and stuff like that?
We are starting a magazine, is what we're doing. And we're going to be putting articles out and things like that in our magazine.
Beautiful, beautiful. Act for America is another.
We had also started a booklet based on the League of Women Voters here that how to run for election, because most people starting out at the local level where all government starts, they would have a guideline to follow so they know how to plan like you're trying to plan things too.
Right,
That's
beautiful. Have any of you talked to your churches about doing a salt and light council? Or anything like that?
I got a question for you. I'm Roman Catholic, and I'm having a lot of trouble talking to the priest, my pastor, and junior priests, they seem to be really reluctant to get involved with politics, even though Catholics are being killed in Minnesota. You know, we're having people about abortion. And they got other issues that the church is going to follow, but they don't seem to want to get involved.
No, when it comes to politics.
We actually tackle this. I was having this conversation with someone today. Here's what we say, and we're not saying that you say this or that you even do this. It is for your consideration. What we have found in practice, because much like you're dealing with the priests on the Protestant side of the street, pastors and elder boards tend to be reluctant at certain points. And what we say to them is, we're like, okay, that's fine. We're just going to go straight to the people. Let them know what's going on. The thing that those folks do not want is the pressure coming the other way. But there is nothing that stops you from talking to your fellow congregants, even outside of church, saying, listen, we got work to do. And can I just share, by the way, I don't know if you're the only Catholic in the room, you guys have so much inherent muscle to move things. Even if the priests and others don't want to get involved directly, you as a block of voters, of activists, advocates, whatever the case may be, if you guys can harness that, a lot of this changes overnight. So we want you to be encouraged that you go talk to people, and when the priests ask you what's going on, it's like, hey, I know you've been reluctant to get involved, but we got to get to work. And so the people, the hands and the feet, are doing what we were called to do as the body.
To be honest with you, I mean, not to be honest, I mean, yeah, being honest, but the reason why we did all of Watchmen Action is because when we were traveling with other pastor groups, the pastor of pastors was talking to all the pastors, and I kept thinking, okay, great, all the pastors are here for like 3-4 days, they're absorbing all this information, but then what? You know, how do they go back? How do they organize their congregation if they start talking about what's going on? So if they don't start talking about what's going on, then, you know, it's kind of a moot point. He came for no reason and nothing changed in the church. So RC and I were like, we need to start talking to the real church, which is we the people. And doing, right? It's our biblical responsibility. So if they're not doing it, then we need to do it. And I've gone so far to say, if your pastor is not shepherding his people and talking about what's happening in our society, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude or crude, but you need to find a pastor that's going to lead the sheep, because we're in trouble as Father's flock. You know, things are coming down the pike that we can all see it, but those that are behind the pulpit, that are not speaking the truth about what's going on, that are not defending the young little boys that are being chemically castrated, that are not defending life before birth. I mean, like, we, the church, need to step up and you're wrong, I'm not giving you my money until you start leading the flock. Because way back when, the Revolutionary War, it was the Black Robe Regiment that did, you know, they're standing in front of their congregation, and they take off their black robe, and they've got their military uniform on. They're like, who's coming with us? Pick up your, you know, your guns and whatnot, and we're out of here. And we're literally at that point where it's like, pastors, priests, like, you need to be speaking up, and if you're not, it's ours, the church's responsibility, to hold them accountable to what it is that they are not doing.
Amen. And by the way, you don't need to get permission from anyone. Your Heavenly Father and your Savior has already given you permission.
It's our responsibility.
It's our responsibility. They're looking at us like, whenever you're ready, you know, you're already working from victory. So thank you for listening to our...
I would say start a group.
Yes.
Start, like, all of the people that's in the church, you know, the people that you know, say, you know what, you know, the church is not really doing anything. I was raised Catholic. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school and and they weren't doing anything in the community. But if the congregation comes together, they can start doing things. I would recommend that you start doing a Watchmen Action. You know what, church? Our priest is not doing anything. I want to be able to do something. I'm at Watchmen Action. They're going to come up, and we're going to start engaging into the community, because they're lost and they need us. That's what I would say.
We hope that helped.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right.
All right.
Action step number 2, the old favorite.
Timelines, goals, and benchmarks. See, this is all like business stuff. It's all like, but you gotta do it. Good.
Right? So when you think about this, the best way to plan for victory is to work backwards in your timeline. right? So what's up on your screen is that first big box there at the top says, put the big change I want to make happen here. So for you guys, that would be voter integrity, right? So step one is the end goal. What's the ultimate objective? What does success look like? And when do you have to do it by? So this is going to become your calling card, right? When people say, well, what do we get out of it? So why would I invest my time in that? You're going to be able to hit them with what the future looks like, right? Key number two there is key benchmarks. What are the milestones you need to reach and by when to achieve the goal? How are you going to measure progress? And then what are the deadlines for those things, right? And then you get to the core. Step three is the actual tasks. What specific tasks have to be completed to move each benchmark? Who's responsible and what resources are needed? And I want to take a minute here, because what we have found in practice, we've lobbied in the state of Florida. Gold and silver is now legal tender in the state of Florida. And we worked with other coalition partners to get that legislation signed by Governor DeSantis. But it took us 2 years. And walking the hallways, Tallahassee is our state capital here in Florida. Walking those hallways for a long time, here's what we discovered. What you don't want is the person who is best at air traffic control. That's the person that should be back at headquarters, making sure all the trains run on time. You don't want that person running down the hallway trying to book appointments. You want the person who is personable, speaks well, and can communicate and get things done. They're doing that work and then throwing those things back over their shoulder to the person at headquarters to make sure all the trains run on time, all the appointments get booked, and those things get done. It's like any sport. If you've got people in the wrong position, it's going to be a disaster. But if you get the right people in the right position, things are going to move for you and they're going to move smoothly. And when people are in the right position, you know what happens. People don't step on people's toes.
Right.
Because they're all focused on what they got to do because they know that it's going to accomplish the goal.
So as we're going through Tallahassee, right, we're going with a professional lobbyist, and he stops at this House Representative's location and goes, okay, it's time to book the appointment, give me your card, takes a picture of the card, sends the picture of the card back home to the person that's on the computer, and that person immediately does the email so that the representative can now email back and go, yes, the appointment's now all set. And the person back home goes, okay, confirmed, my guy will be, my lobbyist will be there at this time, right? And all that information is happening like that quickly, right? For us to be able to say, you know what, we need to move the needle. You guys, when they're up in the state capitol, I promise you, it's like, you know, like a bunch of kindergartners. Literally, one of our House reps was like, well, I was going to get this person over here, but that person won't play ball with me because I didn't like her thing, so I didn't sign on to her thing, so she won't sign on to my thing. And it's like, are you representing the people, or is it like, you know, a favorites type of a game that's happening here? Right? So we need to be like literally in their face and saying, you know, we're watching what it is that you're doing. We're seeing what's going on with voter integrity. We don't like what's happening. We're holding you accountable to what's happening here. And then we start flooding the zone. You, Pennsylvania, start flooding the zone and say, we're going to be known for voter integrity because this is baloney and we're losing our state and it's time for us to take back what needs to happen and this is the way it's going to be. And when you start flooding the zone and start talking to people about what your end goal is, you start this mantra, right? And people start catching on going, yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys are like the spark in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm really excited that, you know, all of you are like, voter integrity. Okay, great. So you got a group of people, you're all on the same board about what needs to happen. Well, most of you at least are on the same board about what needs to happen. Great. So let's talk about the end goal. The end goal is what? Are you looking for paper ballots? Are you looking to get rid of the machines? What specifically is it? And then let's work backwards so that we know exactly what steps that you need to take. Who do you need to align with? What mountains you need to be on to do the influence, right? What conversations you need to spark? Who do you need to bring on your team to make sure that gets done? Right? Who else can you align with? What other organizations are doing part of what you're doing so that you can say, we want to reinforce what you're doing. We've got what you don't have. We've got this lane, you've got that lane, but we want to help you with that lane. Right? What does that really look like for you as an organization, working together in unison within the organization, and then working in unison with the people that you're bringing in, and then working in unison with other organizations that are aligned with what it is that you're wanting to do?
Amen. All right. So action 3, calling others to action. So this section allows you to lay out the specific actions and the timeline on the goals. So as you guys will get a copy, I think Bill will share this digitally. The way that this is designed is for you to write in these sections and to put the pieces together on who will do what.
So let's say you have 8 different little parts that you need to have done, and each one of those parts have subparts that you need to get done, whether it's an email or a conversation you need to have somebody. So you've got a bigger, here's what I need to accomplish so I can get to point 1 of the goal. Here's all the miscellaneous things that I need to do to move the needle to that part. And then the next section, okay, what are all the miscellaneous things that I need to do to be able to move the needle to the next section? Because you're always looking for, okay, you know, they say in business, you know, a real meeting, a successful meeting is when you book a meeting from a meeting. It's the same thing here. Success is because you're seeing, okay, I closed this and I did this thing over here, and I know that this is the next thing that I need to do. This will help you develop here are my action steps, and who needs to do what, and here are the different platforms that we need to use so that we're all achieving the goals correctly and we have a timeline.
There you go. Well,
we're going to land the plane with this.
Yes, go ahead.
So I always say let God be God. You know, Ephesians is really important about, you know, what it means to take up our armor and do the things that we need to do. Father is calling all of us to call our brothers and sisters and say, you know, he's judging us. We're being judged. I mean, you can't look at what's happening and not say that, you know, everything that happened with Charlie and all the abortion and everything, like he's judging us. And he's saying, all of you who have the ability to do. I don't care what part of it that you're capable of doing, do something. If you don't know exactly what to do, find somebody who can say, here, I'm going to plug you in over here until you figure out what your gift is so that you can really give to what you're looking to do. And we really want to be able to help, you know, the church and say, church, we're capable of doing this, right? We need to repent because of what we've done as a country, and then we need to come and say, Father, please guide us in what it is that we need to do next, and then we need to get organized. Because I promise you, the Democrats, they never stop working. Never. Like, they're always organized. They're always out there protesting and doing stuff. They got their clipboards and having people sign up for stuff, and we on our side aren't doing. And I really want to say, I think it's kind of deliberate from our politicians that they have us like the church sitting on our hands, because a real church could never vote for Democrat because you can't kill a baby in the womb to 9 months, right? So they know that if they hurt the Republicans and they continue to push us down, it's we the church that doesn't have a voice now. And it's time for us to come together to do the things that we need to do. Heck, we're giving you guys the work with. We're not even asking you to pay us. Like, I don't even care at this point because Father's taking care of the financials and whatnot, because we know that the church has got to move. So anything that RC Line can do to be able to help you develop your plan, we would love to be able to come in and help you. If you have other people that you would like for us to talk to, if you would like us to come back, please let us know, because anything that we can do to be able to support what it is that you guys are doing with voter integrity, even if we can, you know, combine the people that are down here that are doing things with voter integrity, if that helps you, we want to be able to be the conduit so that we can make sure that what you're wanting to accomplish, we're helping you to be able to accomplish.
Amen. So that's that. I think we can do this. Let me see if I can stop sharing the screen here. Where are my tools and controls?
Did you hit the stop share?
I can't. I hit the controls. Sorry, guys. I did a control hiding on us here. Let me see if I can do it this way. Oh, that's already done. Okay. Oh. Getting closer.
Stop share.
That's the thing, is that we're sharing and there's no stop share button.
So there's no stop share button.
Sorry guys, I hit the controls. Let's see if I can hit this to stop, and then we'll take questions.
I'm gonna grab some water.
There we go. All right. So guys, thank you. And at this point, we are happy to take any questions. So Bill, what we'd like to do, because it's kind of hard to hear folks in the background, if we could have someone up near the mic to kind of field the questions, and then we're happy to answer them.
And remember, we're research people, so if there's anything that's happening out in the world that you want answered, questions, if you have any questions about that, we can also answer that too.
Yeah.
Somebody's coming up.
Awesome.
Hey, can you hear me good?
Yeah, we got you. Thank you, sir.
Cool. All right, first, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, this is more of a comment that I'll ask you to comment on more than a question, and I'll try to condense it quickly. So, I attend one of my functions here is the education committee, and so I've been attending meetings, school board meetings for the last 5 years or so, committee meetings and the actual board meetings. And one of the things that you said tonight resonated because you're like, I was jumping around, item to item to item, and not really. So I finally locked in on a couple things. And so for a perfect example was I went to a committee meeting and I had my presentation. You get your big 3 minutes a month, you can speak. And I noticed there was an item in the agenda item where they were hiring or proposing to hire this crazy leftist worldview school psychologist. So I'm sitting there going, okay, well, scrap what I was going to do. This needs to be addressed today. So the point of it is, and so I did that, but the point of this is they come at you so fast. And you're preparing, and you work up a presentation, and you work up an idea, here's how we're doing it, and then all of a sudden they throw something even crazier out there that you feel compelled to go after. So I'm not really asking a question, but I'm saying, what about that? What happens when that happens? When something all of a sudden jumps that's more, that either, you don't want to jump by now, but something that's just immediate and you need immediate attention. And I'll just kind of shut up.
I'll start and then I'll have RC finish up. What I would say is stay the course of what's really important that you're doing, but then take that other issue and go, okay, who can hold this banner, right? If somebody else can pick up the banner and say, I'm going to, deal with this because, you as a group, right? Somebody in your group or somebody in your group that knows somebody else that can pick up that banner. Just because your focus is going to be one thing doesn't mean that other important things are important and you're not going to want to help somebody advocate for that thing. So you can find somebody and go, you know what, is that important to you? Great, it's important to you. We've got a way of being able to help you advocate for that, and I'm going to support you because I'm advocating for this thing over here, and I need to stay a hyper-local focus on that, but I'm going to help you make sure that you're hyper-focused on it because that means a lot to me as well.
Yeah, one of the things that happened for us, our friends Scott and Jill Kiley, they are in Southwest Florida. They are the folks that started the movement to get fluoride out of the water, okay? And now that's been enshrined into law. And what they did is they went city by city, county by county. They ran into the exact thing that you're talking about. So their playbook, which we actually have within our community online, because it was so good, and they just give it away to people for free. They're great folks. They said, okay, what Juliana was saying up front is important. If you're focused on your issue, stay focused on that. There should be a playbook for when something like this comes up to be able to quickly assess, can we even talk about it today? Or do we need to be ready to follow up when we're ready? So you make an assessment. And then the next thing is, who is the next person up? Because you've got the person that's going to speak. Maybe you've got a person that goes before them to set them up. Right? Because our Surgeon General for the state, Joe Latipo, was going to these city councils, and when he would just go in and speak, it was fine. But when they started putting a setup person in front of him to set the stage, it made all the difference in the councils and the commissions turning their thought process. I mean, when you can get crazy liberal progressives
to agree with you, I mean, some of these city councils and county commissions were voting unanimously to take the fluoride out because they were uneducated. They said, look, we don't have to agree on everything, but we all agree that we're going to die if we don't fix this. And so what they did is they had their main issues, and then if another opportunity came, they assessed whether or not they could deal with it that day or if they needed to come back later. And then they figured out who could be assigned to the different roles. So if you go at it that way you're not doing the squirrel, because it happens to the best of us. I'm on this issue, but oh boy, that's a big one. I want to do that. Have a system
to be able to deal with that. And if you don't get to tackle it that day, it is better that you come back prepared and say, you know, last month, this got sprung on us. We wanted to go back and make sure we weren't crazy. And it turns out we're not. Here's the story. You're still going to have an opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
We'll take as many as we can.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Brandon.
Hey, Brandon, God bless you, sir.
God bless you. So I wanted to add on to what you were mentioning earlier about when you tell him about the Catholic Church and all that. And it's not just Catholic; the Protestant and other denominations are in similar situation.
Yeah.
Is when a pastor doesn't bring up about what happened with Charlie Kirk and all that. Would you think that the reason why some of them are not is because that sometimes even in a denomination that's, you know, by and large conservative, that there are some, you know, progressive liberal Christians trickling into that church, and even though one thing I find surprising is that, you know, that some of them, they attend a church that by and large has a message that goes against what they believe in, but they still attend it anyway. Do you think that might be impacting? And my question is, you know, what makes a liberal progressive Christian have more of a voice in a conservative church, but by comparison?
Great question.
So we had a local church, and I love the pastor, and he started talking about pro-life stuff. And he had people leave the church because they did not want him talking about pro-life. Could you imagine a church? People that would vote Democrat, that they were all like, no, you know, I disagree with this pastor, so I'm going to walk out. Listen, at the end of the day, those that you're supposed to shepherd will come, and those that you're not supposed to shepherd will leave. And those that want to stay in the fake church, or what we call it the cultural church, if you want to stay in the cultural Christianity and do that, then let them do that. But the rest of us that are like, this is my Bible, that's my Father, He said, therefore, this is what we're doing, right? We, the people, need to start saying, we're coming together. It doesn't matter what the priests or the pastors are doing. We're going to take the mantle and take care of it ourselves. Because that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? We all became so, like, we laid back. We're like, oh, you know, the government's giving out money. There's some non-profits, and they're taking care of it. It's like, no. We need to be doing it regardless of what the church, what the fake church is or isn't doing. The real church, the real people, Father's real children, will stand up, as we're all doing, and saying, this is not right, and we're not going to allow this. RC and I, 11 years together, building a company and whatnot, we completely turned what we were doing specifically because of what's going on in our society. You know, so we need to, as a church, stand up and say, I love you as a pastor, but what you're doing is wrong.
And look, honestly, we're family here, so we can have a family discussion. Many churches, it's a business. Mm-hmm. And if you were to talk to the pastor off the record, where he felt comfortable, he'd say, listen, I can't do that. I'd lose half my congregation, which means I'd lose my money. I'd lose half the tithe. And look, we understand that you have to make a living. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. But in a wheat and tares moment, what we tell pastors who give us that answer is, listen, respectfully, you're going to lose half your congregation anyway. You need to decide which half you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And more directly, Brandon, you asked a great question about what is it about liberal Christians and why did they get so much share of ear with the pastor? Generally, it is because they are donating or providing things in a disproportionate amount to the rest of the congregation. So the pastor is willing to toe the line to not lose that. That's the honest truth. Y'all come on down.
The price is right.
We see somebody's face when they see us in person. They're going to be like, hey, I remember you from the camera. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Beverly Hernandez.
Hi, Beverly.
How are you? God bless you.
Great, thank you. God bless you.
For what you're doing.
Thank you.
I've been working with the public from the time my kids are in school and I was on the PTA board. So what you're saying, a lot of it is extremely familiar to me. My issue at this point is motivating people. I mean, I'm a senior citizen, all right? And I find that people around my age who, there's basically two issues. I'm just making observations here. There's basically two problems. They like to come and they listen and they like to watch the show. It's almost like being in the theater with them, okay? Yeah, we all go to the movies, you know, but don't ask me to go door knocking, don't ask me to come and set up an event, don't ask me to do this and that. So motivating. And a lot of them are at the point where they've been fairly well traumatized. They have been leaders in the community. They have been attacked by lawfare. They have been attacked by, you know, the press, by bloggers, things going on like that. So they have retired to their rooms. You know, they pretty much isolated themselves. And these are people with tremendous gifts, skills, facilities that would be, you know, so remotivating people is something that I've been interested in. And I think the other thing we need to remember is prayer is tremendous, because God, He can call people, He can do a lot that we cannot do.
Amen.
So thank you for what you're doing. You know,
Thank you.
I don't often worry about the money. The money comes. If you have a good, solid, God-given goal, the money will come.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yes.
Agreed.
Thank you very much.
So,
You're welcome, Beverly.
Thank you, Beverly. I do want to say that you're right. The apathy of the church and how traumatized they are from all the work that they've done, right? And they're seeing not necessarily the outcome of what they're really wanting. They're not wanting to move. Now, having said that, though, what I'm really excited about being a Gen Xer is the fact that, you know, like you said, the older guys, they're traumatized, they're in the room, they're like, I'm done, I've already done all of this, I'm tired, right? Charlie Kirk did an amazing job getting the young guys motivated and awake. Like literally, I'm sitting in the room with like hundreds of, you know, young people, and they're on the stage, one of the speakers, I don't remember who it was, and he was like, do you understand that the people in politics that have been in Washington have been there longer than you've been alive? And they were like, oh, and when you think about that, it's like, yeah. So we know who's making the money, we know how the money's getting funneled and stuff like that. So, but now we've got this whole generation of kids that are going, we're opening up, it was like 38,000, you know, requests to open up, you know, Turning Point, you know, location clubs and all the different schools and whatnot. Like, we now have an opportunity. I'm trying to motivate the older generation and go, look, you've got all the knowledge, you've got all the power, you know the connections, you know how to do this. How do we take your knowledge, right, and we hand that information to the young kids, and not in they're going to go off and then become leftists. No, these young kids, let me tell you, they're like my grandparents and your parents, they're conservative. The girls are like, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom and raise children. The boys are going, I just want to be able to make enough money so that I can send my kids to college and, you know, take care of my family. And they have every right to expect that, because when we were born, that's what we had. But in 1971, when they took us off the gold standard, right, the dollar went, and our society got completely to and the young guys are now going, wait a second, hold on, wait a second. You know, the American dream, like we want the American dream. We don't have the American dream now, and we're ready to stand up for the American dream. So I said all of that to say, we now as a group of older people have an opportunity to say, young guys, you're looking for leadership. They're hungry for us to say, this is what we can do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we need to do. So there's plenty of people out there that are looking for the leadership. So let's get the older people saying, you know what, the younger guys, and if the older people don't want to get up and come out of their own, that's fine. We've got the younger generation. So let's take your collective knowledge and what you guys know and start going, hey, younger generation, we know you love Turning Point. Charlie Kirk was talking about voter integrity. We need to do something about it, because if you want a free country, you need to be able to, you know, vote to get what it is that you want. Because if we allow the government to do it, the leftists are going to take over the agenda. And we know that there's so many more conservative young people. Just because the media is telling you that the young people are leftists and their hair is all dyed and stuff like that, that's what the media wants you to know. The real young youth, they are conservative and they want to be able to have their, real America back. And it's our responsibility. It's the reason why RC and I are so passionate about everything that we do, is because the real America, the made in America, yeah. Remember that the 70s and they pulled all that away, no longer made in America, made in the USA, right? We deserve to give that to our kids. Now we've got grandkids and I'm worried about what's going to happen with our grandkids. We already live in a 15-minute city. If you guys know what a 15-minute city is, they're going to give you your digital currency. You're going to have your 15-minute city where you can work, live, and play, and you're not going to be able to go outside, and they're going to take your money at the end of the month. And if you think that that's not true, they're already doing it. They're already doing it. All the banks are ready to flip the switch so that we no longer have a fiat currency. We're all going to be on digital currency because I live in a 15-minute city right here in Orlando. So it's not, I keep telling people, it's not that the enemy's knocking at the door. I'm sorry, the enemy's already taking control, right? And it's our turn to take control back from what it is that they're doing.
Yeah. Juliana, just an add-on to that. So Beverly, the message is hopeful. And I'll give you an example. For the last 3 years, we have taught a tech-savvy seniors class at our local chapter of Americans for Prosperity. It is one of our favorite things to do.
The average age is about 75.
Yeah. So I watched a group of people change, and now they use X, like they're masters, to the point where the state of Florida AFP chapter uses their content, okay?
Yep.
So what happened there? Well, what happened is we had a shift in thought, because I said to them, listen, all the stuff that Juliana said, I shared with them. I said, look, because the old rules still apply. If you don't like what you see and you don't like what's going on, you can change it.
That's right.
Now, you may not have the vim and vigor, at least you don't believe you do, Getting older is a state of mind versus a state of being, right? Okay. So you can say, I can't get up and run around like I used to, but what I can do is
open a door, make a phone call, connect you with the right person.
What's your gift? What's your skill? So we put these people to work. And they got active. And they said, wait a minute. I can do this social media thing. I get it. I can do that, right?
And it's working.
And they start doing it, and it starts working. And now they have purpose. Like we get calls from them on a pretty regular basis to say, look, whenever you think you're getting scammed, please call.
If you guys all organized and all you did was X, Twitter, right? And you guys were consistent and you were going after all the different organizations. Why are we not talking about this? Why is this not top of mind? Why is the news not talking about this? Why is it Trump is in office and we're not talking about voter integrity? Why are we not changing things? Why are we not taking down those machines? Right? Because if all you're doing is talking on Twitter, that's where all the politicians are. They're listening to you guys on that platform. So if you guys all get together and all you did was organize who's going to start the tweet, everyone's going to retweet, everyone's going to comment on each other's tweets so that it goes viral, right? That's gargantuan. That's huge if you guys only did that alone.
Yeah, and just one other thing quickly, because I think it's a good analogy. If any of you have had surgery in the room, knee, hip, whatever, they replace something, they fix something, okay, yeah, plenty of hands. So I've had this elbow worked out twice. So what is one of the first things they try to get you to do after you're done with surgery? Move. The rules still apply. It's like you got to move. You got to do something. Even if it's a little thing, you've got to take action. So Beverly, thank you for sharing. And there's hope.
Hi, I have something to say here. A couple things here. My name's Dave.
Yes, sir.
My name's Dave. I'm the camera guy. Trying to take.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
I just wanted to comment on one of the things when Mike came up and made the comment about the school board, when he said that he came completely prepared to go over one subject, and here they threw another one on top of him. I'd just like to comment that President Trump seems to be defining the narrative on every issue, and the Dems are going bananas because they can't possibly keep up with it either. So it works both ways. Okay, so when you went over your complete presentation on the scientific methods of creating an organization, one of the first things that I kept thinking about was, and some of the people that commented on it was, we need people. And making an organization that works, which you've certainly got the formula down with, the single most important thing is getting the interest among other people and getting members. And we don't have the greatest membership here. Some people come, some people go. We need consistent people that are concerned with what you people are discussing. And I wondered if your organization addresses that problem at all, as far as gathering members to assist in your work.
So we found that when you start organizing and advocating for somebody, you draw people in. People aren't interested, for the most part. Let's go to another meeting, and they're gonna want me to, wave flags or whatever, and I'm gonna eat another rubber chicken dinner, and it's gonna be boring. And then what's next, right? But if you guys become the group known as, like, let's say the Watchmen Action group, and you guys are really doing it, and you're like, we're advocating for this thing right here, voter integrity, and we're engaging the culture, we're engaging the people, and we're saying, you start getting momentum. People are going to start watching what it is that you're doing. You've got the website now. Now let's just talk about doing the tweeting and whatnot. Let's start getting the interest, because when you start doing something, you start like, okay, I stand for this thing over here, and we're known for this, and this is what we're going to do right here. People will be drawn to that. People are not interested in coming to another monthly meeting, and we're meeting at some diner and stuff like that. Like, that's why they're so burned out, right? She was talking about everybody being burned out. That's what they're burned out from. Okay, so let's do something.
Dave, can I share something with you just quickly here, because I think it's important. You mentioned President Trump, and there's something that he does, and he has done in his professional career, and now his political career, exceedingly well. And we put this to the test. What you should do is take one of President Trump's speeches and run it through one of those online things that tells you the grade level that he's speaking at. On average, President Trump speaks at about a 9th grade level, and people make fun of him for that. But you have to understand, his messages get through because they're super easy to understand, and people can go somebody else what they heard. Haven't we all done it? Everybody can nod their head yes. Okay. That's one of the keys to victory. So what I'd encourage you to do, and I mean, obviously we can help you guys with this, but what I'd encourage you to do when Bill sends out the digital version of the Express Pack, really focus on section 1 and take those pieces and start to build your story. Because here's what's going to happen. And here's how the left does this exceedingly well. And just so you guys know, we took on a lot of pain for you. We actually went through the National Democrat Training Center. Their training is so comprehensive, they can take a functional idiot and in 1 hour or less, have them doing whatever they do best for the Democratic cause. True story.
I'm sure.
What I'd encourage you guys to do is really hone in on why the Pennsylvania Integrity Network is different than anything else, and what makes it so compelling that people say, you know what, I at least need to go and check it out. I need to see what these folks are doing, because every time I turn around, somebody's saying something about it.
And if they hear that you've got a solid plan, and you're like, hey, so-and-so, we have a plan, we've done the SWOT analysis and everything, and we know that we need your help to do this thing over here, and if you do this thing over here, this is the outcome, right? People are more likely to want to get involved, because they're like, okay, now is not you just telling me to come to a meeting, now you're like, you're giving me a specific, what can I do to help you? People want to help, they want to know that they're important. Like, if go to a monthly meeting, after a while you're like, I'm just a person in the crowd, right? What am I actually doing? How am I really contributing? So when you're all around a cause, doing something around the cause, you'll gain more members.
And can you folks give your, as Bannon puts it, can you give us your coordinates? I was not able to find a good website for you, for example.
Oh, absolutely. It is Watchmen, so it's plural, Watch, M-E-N, WatchmenAction.org.
Got it. Okay. And do you have any information on that digital currency business that you brought up?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You'll see the links to our newsletter. Yeah.
So go to our Substack newsletters, and if you go to Ripped from the Headlines, the first article we started with 3 years ago was about a guy named Randall Crater, who was eventually jailed because the government and the judicial system went after him because he was hired by the Disney family, the black member of the Disney family, meaning the black sheep of the family. And this guy was arrested, but meanwhile, The Disney guy who hired him was the one who was making this guy build out a cryptocurrency backed by gold. Well, the government, Congress was like, no way. The judicial system was like, no way, you're not doing this, so we need to put you in jail. So we started talking about digital currency and how like scary it is and how our government has total control over it. Is the reason why we're doing a symposium next week, because we're all like, where's the church having the conversations about digital currency? So if you go to our Substack, go all the way back to the beginning, we've been writing about all this artificial intelligence and currencies and stuff like that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much.
Yep.
You're welcome, Dave. Thank you.
You going to say something? I want to say okay.
Hey, Bill.
How you doing, my friends?
Good, sir.
Like you said about the reclaim campaign, okay?
Yes.
I go on there every Tuesday night.
Yes.
All right? I learn so much from what they're doing.
Right.
And I send that out to other people to go there. And, you know, I see one or two of them show up, but when they say it's difficult, I believe it's difficult because what our RNC has done is suppressed our own vote. They suppress us. They get our people where they don't want to be involved. And, you know, I get on Steve Stern's thing that he does all the time. And, I mean, there's some of them calls have gone 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes.
Wow.
Yes.
But there's so much information being disseminated that I get excited. I'm constantly involved, learning, passing that information. That's how I stumbled on YouTube. Okay, on your site, now you updated the file now. So I'll send that file to Dave so he can include it in our minutes.
Beautiful.
All right? But when you're saying, you know, it's like, how can we do an event with you up here in Pennsylvania, promote it, get people in to go over all your information that you have?
We would love to do that. It's just a matter of booking the schedule. So whatever you would like, I would love to be able to come up and do a couple of events, whether we're doing a luncheon, we're talking, we're actually doing the workbook. So we come up with workbooks, everybody's opening up and we're doing, like we're building out plans and stuff like that. So we can come up for a week and, you know.
Yeah, because you were talking, yeah, that's what I'd like to work out, okay?
Yes.
Because I was just over the Netherlands, I do another thing in addiction, okay, with recovery from addiction. I had over 60 people at a conference, and it was a working conference. They left it with so much excitement. I went and spoke at 3 different meetings, okay? And this morning I got home this afternoon early, flew in, all right? You know, there's 6-hour difference, there's 6 hours, you know, ahead of us. And then I went over, and then I came here because I'm so motivated that we can change the world one person at a time. I've been so excited. I mean, I'm just sorry that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, but I've been so motivated with what's being put out there. From that, I think we have the greatest opportunity right now to attract people to our cause.
Yep.
You know, and we need to keep that energy moving. I mean,
so we so agree with you. So we're becoming part of the RAD family.
right.
And you're going to start seeing us on RAD. Like, we're really excited about what's happening.
Right.
Because we the people have a voice and we need to be working together and what it is that we can do in all the different states, the counties and whatnot, getting down to the nitty gritty, a chapter of like you guys and what you're doing. How do we all get organized and do the things that we need to do? It's like, put your egos to the side, right? And let's just lock arms and move forward. I had a friend of mine, she grabbed my arm and she picked up my arm. And she said, Juliana, will your arm ever get tired? And I stopped for a second to think about that. I'm like, no, because if my arm starts getting tired, you're gonna hold me up. And when your arm starts getting tired, I'm gonna hold you up. And that's the way we need to look at it, right? is that we're helping each other because, like, the reason why we started the publication was it's great that we're doing all this work and whatnot, but if we die, because I'm never going to survive this without the church, right? And that's the reason why we're like, church, help, come on, please, please, because, you know, we can't do this on our own. We need to have the church waking up. All of us need to do this. And if we just get 3% of us to do this, we can make a big, big difference. So
3% to fight a revolutionary war, okay?
That's right. That's
what they
right.
said.
That's right.
I want to work.
Father's looking for his remnant to stand up. Father is saying, on earth as in heaven, right now, this is not heavenly. I'm not looking at heavenly things, okay?
Right.
Therefore, it's our responsibility to do whatever we need to do. And I put that guilt on people. You can sit there and not worry about what they're doing at the local hospital right here to the baby boys. You don't see how they're depopulating. You don't take any responsibility for that. Because I turn around and say, you may be the parent, but that child belongs to Father. Your job is to steward that child. And if you're sitting there allowing that to happen to a little boy, it's my responsibility as Father's daughter to say, you're not allowed to hurt his son like that.
Well,
Right?
what I want you to do is email me your phone number so I can talk with you and set up when we can find dates and make this happen, okay?
Yes, sir.
We'd love to come see you guys.
I will start getting it put together. I will work on it like I work on these things over in the Netherlands. I go over there twice a year. I do a 5-day spiritual retreat. I do a 4-day conference. And, you know, it's just exciting times. I get refueled when I go over there and come back. I go to the CPAC, I get refueled.
Yes.
You know, and, you know, the Rab family, I've been promoting that. You know, since I got on there, you know, been on there for about 6-7 years. I've been following Ben Kirkwood up and down, you know, the Darien Gap, you know, with Ben Kirkwood and these sites.
What Real America's Voice, what we're planning with them, when you guys see it, we don't want to ruin the surprise for you, but when you see it, you will be like, I would totally expect you guys to do something like that. Like, it's going to be pretty exciting.
Well,
So,
I watch them about 10 hours a day, okay?
yeah.
I mean, I'm
Power user.
We do 3 hours, and you got us beat. Oh my God.
I watch the 5 o'clock show with Frank Gaffney, okay?
Yep.
You know, and then I watch the morning show, and then I watch Bannon, and then I watched, you know, Charlie Kirk. Then you go to Pacific, and then you go, you know, just like, then Bannon's back on at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Right.
And if you jump over at 6 o'clock that went down that road, you can see the second hour of Bannon.
Perfect.
And if you guys are feeling really inspired, you can watch live from Studio 6B with our buddy Vinny Mac.
Yeah. But there's so much, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, Bill.
Okay,
in fact, they're all there.
Any more questions?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other
more
questions?
Yep.
Come on down, sir.
My name's Joe Maher.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe. God bless you, sir.
I'm the chairman of our committee on election integrity.
Amen.
Oh.
I'm a lawyer by training, and thanks to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, I'm not practicing right now. So we have a fundamental problem in Pennsylvania that probably you don't have in Florida. We have a very elite, snobbish, and uniparty Republican group leading our state GOP. I don't think you have that in Florida.
Oh, yes, we do.
Okay, but that's nice. Well, it's not nice to hear, because
We understand.
they've essentially, the last 2 campaigns for governor, where there's going to be a governor race again this year, I think they may have decided a week or 2 who the candidate is going to be by sitting there in a group and saying who it's going to be. And they've done the same thing for judicial candidates too. And I mean, we had a problem 4 years ago that we ended up with like 13 people running for lieutenant governor and 12 people running for governor. But they've gone to the opposite extreme and they're doing away with our primary essentially. And the biggest thing we have to have is money. And I haven't heard you mention about money. and Bill and I know talked about we need to set our own up, start a fund of some sort so we could support candidates, because
Sure.
we've all known people who can't get enough money to get the attention, and the money gets thrown at it by the state party, but they don't do anything else for any of the candidates. And I'm seeing here the candidate that they've now picked for governor, I don't think is going to be any more successful than the candidate that ended up 4 years ago, who was probably the worst of the 13 people running. So we have this fundamental situation here. And, you know, I have all kind of background. I've practiced law probably in about, done some cases or whatever in about 27 different counties in Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia to Allegheny County, and I grew up in the western part of the state, in Beaver County. So, you know, I worked my way through college and at the University of Pennsylvania, then they went to what's now Penn State's Law School. So I've argued cases in front of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and basically the last case, they screwed me. And 3 years later, they reversed the exact same factual pattern. So they took care of me because I knocked some other ordinance out from the city of Philadelphia the same year, back in 2011. So
No good deed.
so we have fundamental problems here, and it's sad for me as a lawyer to see that the highest judicial levels we have corrupt people. And we're doing a very wide campaign this year to get rid of the Democrats. We have a retention system here in Pennsylvania, and we're putting the three of the Democrats on the state Supreme Court, we want to vote no to them so they can't be retained. And then we're also taking a member on our other intermediate appellate courts, one each on the Superior Court and the Commonwealth Court. And the Commonwealth Court is a unique court because they handle things about election integrity, either for statewide offices, a trial court, or from appeal from local situations as you know, as an appellate court. So I'd like to know, since you say you may have some problems with your own GOP, how do you handle those kind of things?
So, Joe, it's a great question. There's two sides to this, right? Because you're dealing with a political machine, and the Republican Party of Florida is no better. As a matter of fact, it may actually be more gangster than what you guys are dealing with. No disrespect to Pennsylvania. They are straight gangsters down here, and I dealt with some of that this morning, even. There's going to be two sides to this. There is the grassroots campaign side where you are relentlessly sharing your need, and whoever the people are going to be that you're going to support, making sure that they're out there. And it's going to happen $5, $10, $100 at a time. It's just the reality. And we know it can be done because progressives do it all the time, right? And the reason that they do it is because they have a compelling message to people that's easy to follow. They get in their feels, so to speak, and they keep moving. So that's one side of it. I think you guys can appreciate that, right? You're going to have to become relentless promoters. And one of the best in the world is Steve Bannon. Bannon is the most relentless promoter, one of the most relentless promoters I've ever seen. He never stops moving the agenda. And I always say, Saul Alinsky said that you either got money or you've got people. Bannon actually has both. Okay? He's managed to actually bridge a gap between the two. So there's this relentless move. You've got to be constantly beating that drum to anyone and everyone that will listen. It takes some time, but money does start to come in. So here's the other side. There are people and groups who have means, who agree with you, but you're going to have to shake the tree of every part of your network to say, look, if we don't deal with this, if we keep retaining these judges, Mr. Wealthy Person or Group, the things that keep you wealthy, there's going to be nowhere left to run. So let's put what you have to work and actually push back. And that's going to take you, with your experience and others who do that, shaking every tree that you have, every connection that you have, every person you know that is connected to that person. Like we said, how do you break it down, right? You're going to have to do that, but you've got to take a step back. And I'll stop with this. You're going to need to take a step back, and all of that frustration and anger, we appreciate, we understand. The thing that I'm telling you is the thing that we've had to do here, where we're like, okay, I'm upset. I know I'm upset. This is a righteous anger.
Yep.
But now I've got to take it and say, all right,
What do I do with it?
what do I do with it from the perspective of there are people who have resources who agree with me, who want this to stop. They don't know how and they don't know who to talk to. How do I go have that conversation with them? Those are the two sides that you're going to have to tackle, but both of them are going to take you being nonstop.
Okay. One other thing, just quick comment, something you said there. I quit using the word progressive and referring to Democrat, Marxist, socialist. And I think
They are.
Mark Levin and President Trump, I think, have not used the word. I haven't seen it in recent any of their press conferences or whatever. And I'm a big advocate and follower of Mark Levin. I watch him on Saturday and Sunday night like it's church service, okay? and he explains things that nobody else explains in this lawfare situation, like birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment and so forth. You know what I mean? And,
Joe, words matter, my friend. You were right.
So I just call them what they are. Teddy Roosevelt was the first progressive president. You know, I mean, as far as I can read my history of the United States, he did things that after he came into office as the vice president, because McKinley was shot 6 months into the second term. You know what I mean? And
yes.
he did things in Pennsylvania to stop a coal strike that. And the railroads were involved, and it got hard coal from northern Pennsylvania into New York to keep people warm in the wintertime. So.
I want to Chris jump on the line now.
So.
That's where it is.
Okay, well, I'm done. So, if anybody else has anything to say.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Maybe
No.
No, not maybe.
He does.
Yeah, my name's James. All right.
Hey, James.
I'm not a nationally televised voice, but I just want to know when the United States is going to be recognized as a Christian nation.
Oh boy. So if I can be just slightly snarky, I think that you probably need to pose that question to the White House Faith Office.
Well, they take an oath on the Bible in the name of Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And our laws are founded in the law of Moses.
Correct.
So when are people like you going to stand up and say we are a Christian nation?
We do.
Joe, we've actually said that for a number of years. And Bill Federer is actually on our advisory board. Bill teaches on this.
Yep.
And he points out, along with others, that up until a certain point, you couldn't even take office
Unless.
in a state unless you swore to what you just said.
And there were different denominations.
Yeah,
That's
you have to
still,
do.
you still have to take an oath on the Bible, right?
Yeah.
No, you don't. What they did. What they did is they said, no, you don't have to take it on the Bible. You can take it on law books or whatever, right? So they changed it. This is what happens with incremental creep, because when we started, right? We were. You had to make a sworn statement, and you had to take an oath that said you are a believer, you are a Christian,
And you belong to this church.
and you belong to this church, and you swear that you're going to do these things, right? So that existed, and then it started to drift away because we weren't vigilant, which I think is what you're getting at. Because your question is, when is that going to happen? It happens when we continue to point out to groups that this was going on. Why did it change? And this is what a guy like Bill Federer has been doing for years. He asked the question. He's like, so if this was like this before, what happened? Why did it happen? And when you pull on that string, you're going to get the answer of who you need to go to with that question to say you need to make this happen.
Well, I don't think it's a question. I think it's a movement that has to happen, and it has to be number one on the priority list on everyone. So I don't mean to question you on when you're going to do it. I think it needs to happen now,
And also
in large, at the forefront of everything that this country believes in.
I think with Charlie being assassinated, that really sparked it. We've got, and I hate to say this, but it is, I don't know, it's weird saying this, but we have a Christian martyr. If you look at Charlie and what he stood for and everything, him being assassinated, for everybody to see, Netanyahu sent a message about, Charlie. Trump sent a message about Charlie. And now we've got all of these young people that are now standing up going, we're not tolerating what's happening and we're going to start, going into action, which is why I was saying earlier that, us, the older generation, need to reach out to the younger generation and help them. Like Charlie left this huge, vacuum gap that we need now to fill and say, okay, Charlie took us to this point. He's now gone. Now what do we do next? And that's the reason why Watchmen Action, when Rav found us, they were like, you have a system. You have a way to be able to get people moving, right? That's what we need.
I almost wish we could save this for the TV show, so we could field the question in real time, because I think it's an important one. And I appreciate you asking it.
Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, no problem, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. Please keep telling people that.
Yep.